What is 1031 exchange? 1031 exchange is the Internal Revenue Code section 1031, which allows a taxpayer to sell an investment property and purchase another investment property in its place without paying capital gains taxes from the proceeds of the sale. Although it's most widely known as the 1031 exchange, this process is also called like-kind exchange or tax-deferred exchange. Two dates to keep in mind are the numbers 45, which refer to the 45 days required to identify the deal as the next property, and 180 days to close on the second property. 1031 exchange can be used for most investment real estate properties. To give an example, if you buy property A for $1 million and sometime later sell property A for $1.5 million, typically you would have to pay the capital gains tax in the United States for the difference between your purchase price and the sale price of $0.5 million in this example. However, if you use 1031 exchange, you can buy property B. In this case, property B can also refer to more than one investment real estate property, but the stipulation is that the sum of property B should equal more than the sale price of property A. So in this case, as long as the property B is at least slightly more than $1.5 million, 1031 exchange can be used. That way, the capital gains tax gets deferred until you sell property B, at which point the capital gains tax that refers to the sale of property A gets incorporated into the selling of property B. One other way investors can take advantage of the 1031 exchange is by using part of the property sale to decrease the capital gains tax. So for example, if you cannot find adequate replacement property of property B, what you could do is buy a replacement property for part of the sale profit, and that way you would only have to pay capital gains tax right away from the cash profit that you have left over after buying property B. To give a better visual representation, in a 1031 exchange, the money does not go to either the seller or the buyer. Instead, it is transferred from the seller's escrow company to a intermediary 1031 exchange company, and from there, once the 1031 exchange process is complete, the money is then transferred from the 1031 exchange company to the buyer's escrow company. It is important to consult an experienced real estate agent who has experience with this process as well as an accountant to get the necessary advice depending on your particular situation before starting the 1031 exchange process. What is abandonment? Abandonment is non-payment of taxes. It's the state when taxes are not paid. What is absolute auction? Absolute auction is an auction where the property is sold to the highest qualified bidder. There is no minimum bid or reserve or right of confirmation. This type of auction is also called auction without reserve. What is abstract of title? Abstract of title is a brief, chronological summary of the recorded documents affecting the title to a particular parcel of real property. It's basically a summary of all the different actions that impact a particular piece of land or other types of real estate property. You can find this at the local registrar's office. What is acceleration clause? Acceleration clause is a contract clause that gives the lender the right to declare all outstanding payments immediately due upon a default by the borrower. This clause gives the conditional right to the lender to demand rest of the loan from the borrower all at once if the conditions as laid out in the clause are met. What is acceptance? Acceptance is when a party agrees to the terms of an offer to enter into a contract, thereby creating a binding contract. Acceptance must be obtained voluntarily without coercion. What is accession? Accession is the acquisition of title to land by its addition to real estate that's already owned through human actions or natural processes. There are two types of accession: accretion, which is naturally occurring expansion of land. This is typically done through the deposit of settlements and sediments. And then there is annexation, when man-made activities expand the land. What is accounting? Accounting is an agency relationship. The agent's fiduciary duty to the principal to strictly account for all monies received. What is accretion? Accretion is a gradual addition to dry land by the forces of nature. Examples include as when the tide deposits waterborne sediment into shoreline property. What is accrued expense? It's an item on a settlement statement for which the cost has been incurred, but the expense has not yet been paid. Such expenses are considered to be paid in arrears. What is acknowledgment? Acknowledgment is the recognition of validity. A document signer's declaration to an authorized official that he is signing voluntarily. Sometimes in real estate, an acknowledgement is required. It is usually vouched for by a notary public. What is an acre? An acre is a measurement of land area that is equal to 43,560 square feet. 1 square mile contains 640 acres. What is an actual notice? An actual notice is the actual knowledge that a person has about the existence of a particular fact. So it's when a person is aware of a fact. This fact can be a transaction, or it can simply be the knowledge of the existence of a particular thing. What is actionable fraud? Actionable fraud is fraud that meets certain criteria so that a victim can successfully sue. The victim must prove that the defendant concealed material facts or made false statements intentionally or neglectfully with the intent to induce the victim to enter a transaction, and the victim was harmed by relying on misrepresentation. Establishing that an actionable fraud occurred is important because this is how victims can sue for either civil damages or in some cases for criminal activity. What is actual fraud? Actual fraud is an intentional misrepresentation or concealment of a material fact. It's when a person actively conceals material information or makes statements that he or she knows are false or misleading. What is ad valorem? Ad valorem is a Latin phrase meaning according to value. The term is used to refer to taxes assessed on the value of the property. What is adequate consideration? Adequate consideration is consideration that is comparable in value to the consideration the other party to the contract is giving. What is adjustable rate mortgage? It's also called ARM. A type of loan structure that permits the lender to periodically change or vary the interest rate based on a standard index. What is administrator? An administrator is a person appointed by the probate court to manage and distribute the estate of a deceased person where no executor is named in the will or there is no will. What is adverse possession? Adverse possession is the open, notorious, hostile, adverse, exclusive, and continuous possession of another person's property for a number of years, after which time the adverse possessor may obtain title to the property. What is advertisement? Advertisement is a public notification in any type of media featuring property for sale or rent or marketing, brokerage services. Advertisements in real estate must follow federal, state, and local fair housing laws and advertisement guidelines. What is Affidavit of Title? Affidavit of Title is a statement sworn in front of a notary public or other authorized official by the seller or the grantor of property that identifies the grantor's marital status, and certifies that the grantor has no new judgments, liens, divorces, unrecorded deeds, or other potential title defects since the title examination was completed. This affidavit also certifies that the grantor is indeed in possession of the property. What is Affiliated Business Arrangement, also known as AFBA? Affiliated Business Arrangement, also known as AFBA, is a situation where a person in a position to refer settlement services or an associate of that person has either an affiliate relationship with or a direct or beneficial ownership interest of more than 1% in a provider of settlement services, and who then refers business to that provider in some way, in some way influences the selection of that provider. This information must be properly disclosed. One example where this may happen is with a mortgage broker or an underwriting company. What is agency? Agency is a relationship of trust created when one person, also called the principal, gives another person, the agent, the right to represent the principal in dealing with third parties. This is a term that's used in contract law. What is agency coupled with an interest? Agency coupled with an interest is a situation in which the agent has a personal interest in the subject of the agency, as when one co-owner has been authorized by the others to sell their property. To help illustrate the concept, I have created a short story. In the sun-kissed town of Crestview, 4 siblings, Amy, Bo, Connor, and Dorothy, shared ownership of a picturesque beachfront property, a legacy left by their late parents. Over the years, their lives took them to different corners of the world, and the property remained under the care of Amy, who worked as a real estate agent and lived nearby. The siblings agreed it was time to sell the property and share the proceeds. They entrusted Amy with the task, knowing her attachment to the home and her keen understanding of the local real estate market. Amy, acting as an agent with a personal interest, felt a deep connection to the house where she had spent her childhood summers. She knew every creaking floor bed and every blooming flower in the garden. Her personal interest in the property went beyond financial stakes. It was part of her history and memories. As she prepared the property for sale, Amy's heart swelled with nostalgia. She meticulously staged each room, ensuring the house would charm potential buyers just as it had charmed her family for generations. When the offers began to arrive, Amy's resolve was tested. Each bid was not just a number, but a farewell to a chapter of her life. Yet, she knew her duty was to honor her siblings' trust and secure the best deal for all. In the end, Amy's personal interest in the property ensured she handled the sale with exceptional care, balancing her emotional ties with her professional obligation to her siblings. The property sold, and the siblings gathered one last time to say goodbye, their bond strengthened by the trust they placed in Amy. This story illustrates a situation where an agent, Amy, has a personal interest in the subject of the agency, the family property she is authorized to sell on behalf of her co-owners, her siblings. Who is an agent? An agent is a licensed broker who represents another, the principal, in a real estate transaction. A person authorized to represent the principal in dealings with third parties, clients or customers. What is aggregate rent? Aggregate rent is the total rent for the full term of the lease. What is air rights? Air rights refer to a group of rights where the right to undisturbed use and control of the airspace over a parcel of land within reasonable limits for air travel may be transferred separately from the land. To expand on the concept of air rights, before the advent of air travel, air rights was basically without limits, but after the spread of air travel, air rights have been restricted on a reasonable basis because of civilian and military air travel. One example of how air rights work can be seen in Hudson Yards in Manhattan and in New York City. A related term is encroachment. Encroachment is when a physical object is intruding into neighboring property, often due to a mistake regarding the boundary. To talk more about Hudson Yards is a large mixed-use private real estate development in New York City. It covers a large area of 28 acres. The project is estimated to have cost a staggering $25 billion, that's with the B, US dollars upon completion. The real estate prices in Manhattan are very high, and available ground space for further development is limited. Public structures including landmarks and mass transit facilities often have lower density than commercial and residential buildings. Air rights for those plots of land still exist. This creates an opportunity as there exists undeveloped space above these structures. Transferable development rights, or TDRs, were created to sell and purchase air rights. Air rights allow for the transfer of unused development rights from one site to another. Buildings can exceed the city's zoning code limitations by transferring these air rights. As a result, buildings became taller and more expensive. In the case of Hudson Yards, related companies leased the air rights above the development from the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, or the MTA, for 99 years at a cost of $1 billion. The Hudson Yards development is then constructed atop of a deck supported by 300 caissons laid between the existing railway tracks. Key stakeholders in the Hudson Yards projects include related companies, Oxford Properties, and the MTA. The final results of these projects at the Hudson Yards resulted in 16 new buildings, including 4,000 apartments, a school, and parkland. The development has led to spaces for various large firms. Importantly, Long Island Railroad trains continued to operate during the Hudson Yards construction. This helped minimize disruption to mass transit. In total, the MTA raised around $1 billion for future capital projects from the sale of air rights. This is just one example of how air rights can lead to transformations in urban landscapes, create jobs, and help fund critical infrastructure projects. What is alienation? Alienation is the transfer of ownership or the interest in property from one person to another by any means. What is the Alienation Clause? Alienation Clause is a mortgage clause allowing the lender to demand the full and immediate payment of the mortgage because the owner transferred or pledged to transfer ownership of the property. It is also called the due on sale clause. It is a clause that is standard in pretty much all mortgages. What is a Allodial System? A Allodial System is the system of land ownership that allows anyone to own land without government interference. This is different from the feudal system, where technically all land in a kingdom is owned by the king or the queen. In a allodial system, the landowner has a bundle of rights: rights to buy, rights to sell, rights to exchange, rights to option lease, or rights to leave the land to someone else through a will. A related concept that is important to know about the allodial system is the land patent. A land patent is a document issued by the federal government that grants an individual title to land held by the government. This patent system was used primarily during the westward expansion period. For all intents and purposes, a land patent can be thought of as a deed for everyday purposes. What is alluvion? Alluvion is solid material deposited around a shore by secretion. It can also include any expansion of land or property through artificial means as well. It is also called alluvium. What is amenity? Amenity is a tangible or intangible feature that enhances or adds value to real estate. Types of amenities can be broken down into two groups, either tangible amenities or intangible amenities. Examples of tangible amenities include a swimming pool, a fireplace, or a jacuzzi or hot tub. Intangible amenities include location, privacy, and views. What is amenity purchaser? A amenity purchaser is a person who values a property based on its ability to fulfill his or her specific business needs or use, unlike investors who value a property based primarily on its investment return. I wrote a short story to better illustrate the amenity purchase. In the heart of the bustling city, where skyscrapers kissed the sky and neon signs painted the night, there stood a building, a relic of the past. Its faded facade whispered secrets of bygone eras, and its windows framed stories of hope, ambition, and shattered dreams. Mr. Samuel House, a seasoned real estate agent, paced the worn-out carpet of his office. His salt and pepper hair matched the faded wallpaper, and his eyes held the wisdom of countless property transactions. Today, he awaited a particular client, an amenity purchaser. The door creaked open and walked Miss Evelyn Grant, a woman of purpose. Her tailored suit spoke of power, but her eyes revealed vulnerability. She extended a gloved hand, and Samuel shook it, feeling the weight of her intent. "Miss Grant," Samuel said, gesturing to the leather armchair, "what brings you to our humble establishment?" Evelyn sat, her gaze sweeping the room. "I seek more than walls and windows, Mr. House. I need an amenity, a vessel for my vision." Samuel leaned back, intrigued. "An amenity purchaser, then. Tell me, what business venture do you harbor?" Evelyn's eyes sparkled. "A sanctuary for artists, a haven where the creativity thrives, a place where brushstrokes dance, melodies echo, and words find solace." Samuel leaned forward, clasping his hands. "Ah, an artist's enclave, a noble pursuit. But why this old building?" Evelyn's fingers traced the mahogany desk. "Its bones hold stories. The laughter of vaudeville performers, the tears of failed playwrights. I want to breathe life into its time-worn halls. Samuel nodded. Location is paramount. This building sits at the crossroads of inspiration and desperation. But what specific amenities do you seek? Evelyn leaned closer. A rooftop garden, a canvas for air painters, a communal kitchen where poets brew metaphors over simmering stews, and a hidden nook, a secret library where novelists pen their magnum opuses. Samuel's eyes twinkled. And master bedroom? Evelyn hesitated. A stage, a place for impromptu performances. The bed, a prop for love stories and heartbreaks. Samuel chuckled. You're not just buying square footage, you're weaving dreams. As they toured the building, Samuel unveiled its secrets. The creaky staircase, the stained glass windows, and the forgotten ballroom. Evelyn's eyes widened with each discovery. This, Samuel said, opening a door, is the hidden nook. Evelyn stepped inside, her breath catching. Bookshelves lined the wall, and sunlight filtered through ivy-clad windows. Perfect, she whispered. They ascended to the rooftop where Samuel pointed to the barren expense. Your garden awaits. Back in Samuel's office, they signed the papers. As Evelyn left, Samuel watched her disappear. She wasn't merely buying a building, she was curating a symphony of souls. Weeks later, the Artists' Enclave opened, a place where brushes danced, pianos wept, and ink flowed. Samuel attended the grand opening, marveling at the transformation. Evelyn stood on the rooftop, her eyes alight. Mr. House, this isn't just an amenity, it is a legacy. And so the old building embraced its new purpose, a testament to the magic of amenities, where dreams took root and flourished. What is American Land Title Association, or ALTA? American Land Title Association is a national association of title companies, abstractors, and attorneys who agree to promote uniformity, quality, and professional standards in title insurance policies. Policies issued by ALTA members follow specific guidelines. What is Americans with Disabilities Act, also known as the ADA? Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, is a wide-ranging federal civil rights law signed in 1990 that prohibits, under certain circumstances, discrimination based on disability. What is amortized loan? Amortized loan is the payment of a financial obligation in installments. Recovery over a period of time of cost or value. A loan has negative amortization when the loan payments do not cover all of the interest due, which then is added to the remaining loan balance. What is amperage? Amperage is the amount of electricity going through electric wires, measured in amperes, AMPS, amps. What is an anchor tenant? An anchor tenant is a major department or chain store strategically located at shopping centers to give maximum exposure to smaller satellite stores. A center may have several anchor tenants. An anchor tenant is also called magnet store. Examples of anchor tenants include Macy's department store, Neiman Marcus, or Bloomingdale's. It could also refer to popular brand stores such as Starbucks coffee or national banks such as JP Morgan Chase. What is an annexation? An annexation is when attaching personal property to land so that it becomes a fixture, and the law views it as part of the real property. To expand upon the concept of annexation, the person who attaches an item as personal property is called annexer. Actual annexation is the process of physically attaching personal property to land, causing it to be a fixture. Constructive annexation occurs when personal property is treated as a fixture, though it is not physically attached to the real property. Constructive annexation helps define property rights and ownership, ensuring clarity in legal transactions and agreements. Here are some examples to further illustrate the concept. Curtains on a curtain rod. Imagine a house with curtains hanging from a curtain rod. While the curtains themselves are not physically affixed to the structure, they are understood to be part of the property. In this case, the curtains represent constructive annexation, while the rods itself would be an example of actual annexation. Keys and heirlooms are another example. Certain items, such as keys to a house or family heirloom, may not be physically attached to the real property but are considered part of the inheritance. The law treats them as constructively annexed to the property. Finally, deeds and chattels related to the title is another example. Documents like property deeds or other legal papers that relate to the title of the real estate are considered part of the realty, even if they are not physically fixed to the land. These are examples of constructive annexation. Annual percentage rate, or the APR, is the relative cost of credit as determined in accordance with Regulation Z of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System for implementing the Federal Truth in Lending Act. The formula below is a very simplified version of the formula used to calculate the APR. P is the payment made in each paying period. P0 is the initial principal. R is the percentage rate used in each payment, and N is the number of payments. It is important to note that this formula is a simplified version of the APR formula. It does not take into account any other costs. What is anticipation? Anticipation is an economic principle that says value is created by the expectation of future benefits, such as profit on resale, pleasure, tax shelter, production, income, and other value creating factors. Anticipation is the foundation of the income approach. Anticipatory repudiation is when one party to a contract informs the other before the set time of performance that he or she doesn't intend to perform as agreed. The other party may immediately file a lawsuit for breach of contract without making a tender offer. This is also called anticipatory breach. What is antitrust? Antitrust is an area of federal law concerned with maintaining competition in private markets by prohibiting unlawful restraint on trade. One popular example of antitrust law area is the laws and enforcement around monopolies. Appraisal is a professional estimate or opinion of the value of a piece of property, parcel of land, as of a certain date that is supported by objective data. What is Appraisal Foundation? Appraisal Foundation is a non-for-profit organization recognized as the authority for professional appraisal standards. What is Appraiser? Appraiser is a person who estimates the value of property, especially an expert qualified to do so by education and experience. Usually, appraisers also need a license. What is appreciation? Appreciation is the increase in value of an asset over time. What are appropriative rights? Appropriative rights are water rights allocated by government permit according to an appropriation system. It is not necessary to own property beside the body of water in order to apply for an appropriation permit. What is appurtenance? Appurtenance is a right that goes along with ownership of real property, usually transferred with the property but may be sold separately. What is arbitration? Arbitration is an alternative to a court proceeding where the parties agree to submit facts and evidence to an impartial third party for a decision. What is area variance? Area variance entitles landowners to use land in a way that is typically not allowed by the dimensional or physical requirements of the zoning law. What is an arm's length transaction? An arm's length transaction is a transaction that occurred under typical conditions in the marketplace, with each party acting in his or her own best interest. These transactions account for the majority of transactions in a real estate market. What is an arrears? Arrears is not on time. late in making payments or completing work. Interest is paid in arrears. What is an as-of-right zoning? An as-of-right zoning refers to the landowner's bundle of rights associated with a property. It prohibits discrimination among landowners in a particular area. What is asbestos? Asbestos is a fibrous material that was once very common in many building materials because of its insulating and heat-resistant value. Later on, asbestos was shown to be able to cause breathing issues and illness. Recently, there was news in the United States concerning asbestos because the Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA, has taken a significant step to protect public health by announcing a comprehensive ban on asbestos, a deadly carcinogen. Despite being responsible for tens of thousands of American deaths annually, asbestos is still used in some products like chlorine bleach and brake pads. The new rule specifically targets chrysotile asbestos, which is the only ongoing use of asbestos in the United States. It is found in brake linings, gaskets, and is used in the manufacture of chlorine bleach and sodium hydroxide. EPA Administrator Michael Regan emphasized that this historical ban is more than 30 years in the making and is a result of amendments made in 2016 to the Toxic Substances Control Act. Exposure to asbestos is known to cause lung cancer, mesothelioma, and other cancers. This action aligns with President Biden's Cancer Moonshot initiative to end cancer in the United States. The 2016 law authorized new rules for toxic chemicals, including asbestos, that were previously largely unregulated under federal law. What is an as-is clause? An as-is clause is a statement in a contract that indicates the property is being sold without warranty in its present condition at the time of the contract. What is an ascending bid? Ascending bid is an auction method where the bidding starts low and the auctioneer asks for more, affording the opportunity for buyers to bid more before the item is sold to the highest bidder. What is assemblage? Assemblage is the act of combining two or more parcels of land into one larger parcel. What is assessed value? Assessed value is the value placed on a property by a taxing authority for the purpose of taxation. With real estate, this value is usually a fraction of true value. What is an asset? Asset is an item of economic value owned by an individual, especially those that can be converted to cash. What is an assignment? Assignment is the transfer of rights or interests under a contract to another party. Assignment can also mean a valuation service that is provided by an appraiser as a consequence of an agreement with the client. What are association fees? Association fees are monthly fees paid by each condominium or cooperative owner for common area expenses such as utilities, management, building maintenance, hazard and liability insurance for the common areas of the property and other amenities. What is an attachment lien? An attachment lien is a lien intended to prevent property transfer pending the outcome of litigation. What is attestation? Attestation is the act of witnessing a person's signing of an instrument by a notary public. Who is an attorney in fact? An attorney in fact is a person specifically designated in an instrument, for example, power of attorney, to do something legally for another in his stead. An attorney in fact has a fiduciary relationship with the principal. An attorney in fact need not be an attorney at law. What is an attorney's opinion of title? An attorney's opinion of title is a statement issued by an attorney after analyzing an abstract as to the quality of the title. Who is an auctioneer? An auctioneer is a person licensed or authorized to conduct a public auction of items belonging to someone else. In some states, an auctioneer selling real property must be licensed as a real estate broker, whereas in others, he, she, or they must be a licensed auctioneer. What is avulsion? Avulsion is a natural process in which land is removed from one person's property and deposited onto another's. Avulsion happens very suddenly, as in a flash flood.